So franchise tagging Sam Darnold is out the window, but the Vikings might still be open to just a true blue extension. What would that look like? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. I appreciate my hashtag every day so very much. So thank you so much for tuning in. It has been an interesting couple of weeks on Sam Darnold Watch. What are the Vikings going to do with the belle of the ball in free agency? They've got the guy that figures to make the most of the whole class by virtue of his position and playing pretty well at it this year. Lots of talk about a tag and trade. Why didn't they do that? If you're curious, I talked about that at length on yesterday's episode, as well as a whole bunch of other things in a mailbag. So go listen to that. But long story short, logistically, it wasn't as feasible as you think to pull it off. Actually tagging and trading him doesn't just mean you click two buttons like you're in Madden franchise mode. You need a lot of different people to cooperate with you, and they don't necessarily have a reason to, and you're also on a very tight timeline. So not very easy. Definitely not. Maybe you would even argue not doable. So they didn't want to risk it. I personally think that it would have been very unwise to go for. So I'm pretty happy to see that they showed restraint there. A lot of you disagree. It is what it is. It's over. But after the tag deadline passed, the reporting from both local and national beats has shifted. And everyone is using very vague language. They're open to working something out. Both sides are maybe going to come to a deal. Here is what I understand, and I'm kind of pulling nuggets from, combine reports, from postseason reports, from, recent reports, stuff like Access Vikings and the Star Tribune, NFL Network stuff, the more mainstream ways of getting Vikings information over a long time. So if you're missing, if you've been missing stuff and you want to catch up, here's what I understand the situation to be. Sam Darnold likes it in Minnesota, and he likes it enough in Minnesota to be very much interested in staying if the price is right, if a deal gets done. But it's a business, and here's the thing about where Sam Darnold is at. Think about his career. He has been a bust. He has been a reclamation project. He has been paid like a backup or a rookie. He has not really made big money in the NFL, at least not by NFL standards. But here he is with a chance to do that. He's hitting free agency, coming off a 14-win season, looking to make market quarterback money. What is market quarterback money? It seems like part of the reason the Vikings did not want to tag him was because $41 million is too much for Sam Darnold, not just for the Vikings, but for teams potentially trading for him. That is a point that Ben Gessling has brought up, and it's a point that Ian Rappaport brought up. So there's a local and a national angle on it, both kind of saying the same thing. That the problem with Sam Darnold's market wasn't that teams aren't interested in Sam Darnold. They very much are. And a lot of people are like, why don't you think teams would want to trade for Sam Darnold? Teams want to acquire Sam Darnold, but they want to have a say in how much he's making. And if he's starting at 41 mil, that would be what the tag is. Teams are way less interested in that, and the juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze. So that kind of tells us what a Sam Darnold extension would look like. He would be making less than that, significantly less enough that it makes the whole tag and trade bonanza thing not even worth engaging in. So to me, that tells me that Sam Darnold's maybe going to make more like 30 mil a year. Call it the Baker Mayfield deal. The Baker Mayfield deal 2 years later looks a lot worse. Not the way his contract has scaled. I don't have anything to say about that. But rather, if you sign a $30 million a year deal now, it looks worse than a $30 million a year deal looked if you signed it back in 2022 or whenever Baker Mayfield did, because the cap has exploded so much, 30 mil doesn't go quite as far. All that is to say, Darnold might be in more of a Geno Smith contract territory. if you adjust those contracts for the current cap environment, that is to say, look at the percentage of cap in the year they signed and then see what that percentage of cap would be this year. If you want to say Sam Darnold's going to make about Geno Smith money, that's $30 million now. If you want to say he's going to make about Baker Mayfield money, that would be like $36 million now. So somewhere in there, it would be my guess, somewhere between 30 and 36, evidenced by the fact that 41 was too steep for everybody. And we know this to be the case. We know that the Vikings put out a feeler via NFL Network and Ian Rappaport saying, hey, look, they've got this potential tag and trade thing. You know, we'll see what teams come calling, which was them indirectly through the media begging for teams to call them. And whatever they learned in those calls led them to believe that it wasn't going to be worth it. And I think one of the only explanations that makes sense is that teams didn't want him on that deal. So it's got to be significantly less than that. And if you look at equivalents recently, Geno, Baker Mayfield, guys that started out as not as dissatisfying, franchise quarterbacks from their rookie deals who went through a little bit of time with other teams, did the journeyman thing, and then emerged maybe a better starter. If Sam Darnold's the next one of those, he's going to make somewhere between 30 and 36 million. Here's the rub. I don't know what the Vikings are going to offer him, because what the Vikings need in him is so different than what other teams in free agency need. And here is the other rub. Sam Darnold's agent works for CAA. It's like the biggest agency in sports. So whether it's like tampering or not, that agent knows what quarterbacks are going to be making nowadays. And he knows what teams are going to be willing to offer to Sam Darnold. My guess is there is an offer on the table for Sam Darnold from the Minnesota Vikings. My other guess is that offer is not very good. The Vikings have done this with other players that they would love to keep. Oh my God, we love that guy. We would love to keep him in the building, but the price has got to be right. And then they go, but it's a business, right? Kirk Cousins was one of these. Daniil Hunter was one of these. They had an offer on the table for those guys, but it was lowball. And it was, this is your floor. Go forth and prosper in free agency. If nobody does better than this, you're welcome to come back and take it. And most of the time when you do that, somebody's going to do better. And if you didn't think someone was going to do better, you would sign that right then and there. So that's my guess. And if you think about it, the Vikings having some kind of, call it like 25 mil, right? Like a little bit below what you maybe are going to get for free agency. But if you think about Sam Darnold's future on the Vikings, if he does sign, say, a $25 million deal, there is a real world where he goes into training camp, loses the job to JJ McCarthy, and becomes a $25 million backup. That feels a little risky, but it feels like way less than what Sam Darnold actually deserves on the market. That's what I've been saying this whole time. That it's ships passing in the night. It's two people in different situations. It's not you, it's me. We're better off as friends. We should probably just have fun. We're going in different directions in life. That's where it feels like it's headed. If you think about where he is for the New York Giants, he's competing with Drew Lock. Is he even still a Giant? He has that job. That he is the starter, and you pay your starter $30 to $35 million. Okay, that feels fine. You pay your backup $30 to $35 million, or you pay a guy $30 million and then tell him he still has to win the job. It feels like you're not being very efficient with your resources. And that's not a far-fetched idea. In training camp before JJ McCarthy got hurt, we were kind of told it was Sam Darnold's job. And then it started getting hard. It started getting a little bit tougher for that assumption to be made. And if you ask Kevin Seifert or Ben Gessling or Andrew Kramer, any of the people who were at camp every single day, they were like, yeah, it kind of was going to be a last minute decision. It actually was. JJ McCarthy was starting to take that job from Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold was playing well. So well, in fact, that it went all the way into the season. We saw what he did. He was playing that well in camp too, and JJ McCarthy was making a run at it. So another camp battle, I wouldn't guarantee that Sam Darnold wins that job. And if Sam Darnold is here, only if he is here on a $41 million franchise tag type amount, would I say, okay, yeah, he's going to be the starter, but if he signs for 25 mil, there's a chance you got a $25 million backup, and that's probably the upper limit of what you would ever want to do. The Vikings, I think, are much more keen to give somebody like Daniel Jones $10 million, then you maybe got a $10 million backup, which still feels a little bloated, but, competition, right? There's a chance he could be a starter, and that's what you're paying for, and you move on. You let Sam Darnold go get a comp pick. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. If Sam Darnold does walk, the comp pick formula is giving a lot of people pause. And the difference, it was like a big point that people made when they were arguing to tag and trade. You definitely get a pick and you get it right now. Who's to say they're even going to get a pick next year? And if they do, they have to wait a year. What's the value like? So I want to talk a little bit about the comp formula and how the Vikings are looking on the comp formula headed into free agency and what they can do to maximize this stuff. Plus, if we have time, I would love to go over what a Sam Darnold extension for the Vikings would look like, maybe what their offer would look like, and we can kind of say that's what's on the table and compare it to what he actually signed somewhere else for. So a lot to get into here on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Chewy. Very excited about this one. This is a Chewy household. For those of you that don't know or aren't watching on YouTube, I have pet rabbits. I am currently holding the psychic one, and we get everything on Chewy. They have over 100,000 products. We get hay for them. We get the toys for them. We get supplements and stuff that are good for them. You can manage your pet's health, prescriptions, telehealth vet visits, and even in-person vet clinics are rolling out nationwide. And plus, AutoShip is amazing. I forget to do routine stuff all the time. So not having to think about just having it show up every time, same day of the week, all the time without ever having to think of it is so clutch for me. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewy.com or clicking the link in the description. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping by clicking the link in the description. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. Appreciate my hashtag everydayers so very much. So, let's talk comp picks. One of the concerns about letting Sam Darnold walk is that we're being overly presumptive that we're going to get a comp pick out of it. So let's go from the very, very bare bones for people who don't even know what compensatory pick means so that we can all kind of get onto the same page. A compensatory pick, if you lose more free agents than you sign, you got to make up the numbers somehow, and the NFL has a way of awarding players extra draft picks if you lost too many people that way. If all of your players leave at once, you have the draft picks to replenish. Manipulating this formula and essentially abusing this system is a genuine skill that some teams have and some teams don't. The Ravens very famously have been very good at it. And the Vikings have, I think, the first comp pick in the draft this year, or they're supposed to get it. I don't think it's officially awarded until sooner before the draft, but they're going to get, I think it's going to be pick 97, which is the biggest compensatory pick because of Kirk Cousins. So the way it works, this is the way it worked last year. It's a good example. The Vikings lost 6 compensatory free agents and they signed 5 compensatory free agents. Once you have that it's 6 and 5, you line up those 6 and those 5 next to each other and you match make them. You try to match the ones that are closest in terms of the contract and the value of that compensatory pick. What makes the value of a compensatory pick, you ask? Great question. Nobody really knows. It's completely a secret. Teams don't even know. It's completely proprietary. However, people like those at overthecap.com, Nick Cordy is the guy that I cite all the time. He's the person that I would ask any question you have on this. He will have an answer. And I have asked him questions so that I could answer your questions on this show, but it's really just him. If you want to cut me out as the middleman, I get it. But he has done a lot of great work reverse engineering this, observing when teams did get a pick, when they didn't, what round that pick was and why. And he's gotten a pretty good handle on things. That we have it like 95% figured out, I would say. And there's just some weird details that we aren't 100% sure about. But what matters, the biggest thing that matters is average annual value of the contract. How much money are these guys making? But age is a factor. If you're over a certain age, there's a limit to how high the compensatory pick can be. Snap count is a factor. If you sign a compensatory free agent, but they end up not playing any snaps, that compensatory pick is going to get downgraded. When the Vikings lost Trey Waynes, they would have gotten a 3rd-round pick for that, but he didn't play that year because he got hurt. It got downgraded to a 4th. That kind of thing matters. All these little factors. And that decides what compensatory pick that player is worth. So Kirk Cousins was worth a 3rd-round compensatory pick. Danielle Hunter was worth a 3rd-round compensatory pick. KJ Osborne was worth a 7th-round compensatory pick. So once you line it all up and a whole bunch of things, and you match make them, right? The Vikings lost KJ Osborne. He was worth a 7th, but they signed somebody else that was worth a 7th. So those two cancel off the formula and they don't count anymore. And whichever one is left over is the pick that you get awarded. There are, I think, 32 total compensatory picks that will be awarded every year. Correct me if I'm wrong on that number. There's a finite and limited number that will be corrected. So of all of the leftover compensatory picks that need to be awarded, the NFL awards the 32 biggest contracts. And there you have it. You get your compensatory picks. So how do you ensure that you're going to get a comp pick? For one, the players you sign, make them non-compensatory free agents. What makes a compensatory free agent? If they had a contract expire, that's a compensatory free agent. If they got cut, that is not a compensatory free agent. There's a whole bunch of other rules and stuff I could bore you with forever. The void years are weird about it. But for the most part, if you just tacked void years on the end of a deal, you're still a compensatory free agent. But if you took years of a deal that were supposed to be real and converted them into void years, then it's not a compensatory free agent. Because really, you're just cutting a guy and you're just putting window dressing on it. So I kind of get that. There's other stipulations and stuff about who a compensatory free agent can be. But the point is, you kind of have to look at everybody that you're looking at signing and determine what compensatory pick is attached to them with your best knowledge of the formula, which there is going to be some guesswork too. But let's say you're choosing between a player that's 26 and a player that's 30, and the 30-year-old player is going to be a little cheaper. The 26-year-old player you're a little more excited about. And part of that comparison is going to be, well, the 26-year-old player is going to probably be a bigger contract and they're younger, so they're going to be worth a bigger compensatory pick. But the 30-year-old player might have an age ceiling. So even if we do pay him the same amount, he will be capped at a 5th-round pick, and therefore it won't cancel our Sam Darnold pick. Those are the kind of thought processes you have to go through. And honestly, I think going through those processes is going to give you a really good idea of like predicting the Vikings free agent signings. Maybe I'll do that one of these days over this week. I mean, we'll have a couple more shows before free agency starts in earnest. So maybe it'll be a moot point by the time I get around to it. But that's how the Vikings can ensure that they have a compensatory pick. You can navigate this. You just have to be really careful. And I won't even say, like, I don't think that they would like mistakenly lose a comp pick, right? Like, I don't think they would unawarely be like, oh no, we shouldn't have signed that guy. Oh crap, we had a comp pick. It's more that it's part of the decision, but it could be worth giving up that comp pick in certain scenarios. What if the difference is like Charvarius Ward or like bringing back Shaq Griffin? We very much want Charvarius Ward. And depending on how the price for that is, if we are looking at the comp formula and being like, okay, Charvarius Ward is going to cancel out this 3rd-rounder, we might still decide, yeah, but like I think we'd rather just have Charvarius Ward and not that 3rd-rounder in 2026. And then that's fine. And then you may go, okay, well then that makes them wrong in hindsight to not try to tag and trade Sam Darnold, because part of the argument was that you're probably going to get a better pick on the way back. That's okay. A, there were other reasons with not tagging Sam Darnold, but B, not all decisions are made in a vacuum. That's okay. We had a little bit of an inefficiency there, but the alternative would have been signing a worse player. You don't want to do that. But the Vikings, in terms of compensatory exiting free agents, are very wealthy. Their situation, I mean, they're losing a ton. They lead the league in snaps scheduled to depart from free agency. So another way to avoid having a whole bunch of compensatory picks cancel out on you is to re-sign your own talent. If they bring back Aaron Jones, that won't do anything to the comp formula. They won't get a comp pick for him, but they also won't lose one. So if you bring back a bunch of your own talent, like say extending Byron Murphy or Cam Bynum, they can sort of remove a lot of the variables. And then the guys we kind of expect to leave, like Cam Robinson, Stephon Gilmore, and Sam Darnold, that I would say figure to be compensatory free agents, Daniel Jones if you prefer, will be the only ones. And the actual free agents that they sign, they'll have a much shorter list, so they'll be able to manage this. But even like there are a lot of guys I wish would come back that might earn big enough contracts to get compensatory free agents. But even the ones that I was kind of okay with letting go, or I anticipate are going to be let go because of, factors, #factors, like Cam Robinson. Cam Robinson might get real money somewhere. Sam Darnold gets real money somewhere. Daniel Jones might get $10 million. That'll count, right? If they let him go. Patrick Jones might get like a DJ Wanamish deal. That'll count toward a compensatory pick. There are a lot of players that I don't anticipate back that will count for this. The Vikings can absolutely be expected to navigate this such that they get a better pick for Sam Darnold than they would have gotten. That might mean that the Darnold pick itself gets canceled out because they sign a big free agent. But because the Darnold pick is on there and he counts toward the compensatory guys, they end up getting a 4th rounder they would have otherwise not gotten or something like that. That still might be better than what a team would give the Vikings for the privilege of paying Sam Darnold more than they wanted to pay Sam Darnold, which probably wouldn't have been much, and they probably wouldn't have liked to play ball there. Anyways, all of this might be moot if the Vikings do extend Sam Darnold. So what's that about? And what would that contract look like? That'll be next on Locked On Vikings. Moving right along here on the Locked On Vikings podcast, I'm pulling up the contract constructor here for Sam Darnold on overthecap.com. You can play around with this stuff as well. So Sam Darnold's contract has voided. That is now very important to the idea of an extension of his, because that means the void year stuff that was on his deal is no longer on the contract at all. It no longer matters. The Vikings are eating $5 million in dead cap. And yeah, it's going to be listed next to Sam Darnold's name because it's from a Sam Darnold contract, but it is locked in, and the contract that Sam Darnold had is gone. For all intents and purposes, it is no longer there. If you want to re-sign Sam Darnold, you might as well be signing a new free agent, completely new from scratch, draft up a new contract. So if they want to sign him to say, let's say a 2-year, we'll go $28 million deal. That might be a bit of a lowball, but I'm kind of anticipating that the Vikings are lowballing him. But let's call it 30. Let's call it Geno Smith money. Okay, let's just be nice. Let's call it Geno Smith money. So a 2-year, $60 million deal. Immediately, I think Sam Darnold hangs up the phone on you. He knows that he's going to be able to get a longer commitment from other teams, and I think he can get better money from other teams, but let's say he takes it. What would the deal look like? Well, my guess is you're going to have a whole bunch of void years again. We'll put 4 void years on the end of it. Actually, there's no reason to really do 4 void years. We'll put 3 void years on the end of it. The thing is, a signing bonus can't prorate past the first 5 years of a deal. So the 6th year of that contract, if it's a void year, doesn't actually help you spread anything out. You would have it there for like the idea of future restructures if it were going to be a real 5-year deal, or if you were going to try to like restructure money for him in 2026, but we're not going to do any of that. This is going to be a true blue 2-year deal because we got JJ McCarthy to move to, who, by the way, is a wrench in all of this. I was listening to Access Vikings, the Star Tribune podcast with Andrew Kramer and Ben Gessling and Emily Leiker, all talking about all these situations. And one of the things that they were talking about with regard to JJ McCarthy was like, he is kind of an awkward thing when you're talking about potentially signing Sam Darnold, that contract's value just is going to be less because you have a rookie waiting in the wings, and you have the leverage to look Sam Darnold in the eye and say, well, if you don't take this, we're perfectly happy with going with our kid. And Darnold doesn't really have like leverage over that to force you to up that idea. So it not only depresses the value, but it depresses the length because the Vikings are anxious to get to their kid. JJ McCarthy went on the Rich Eisen show a week or two ago and kind of said, all I want is an opportunity. I just want, and it seemed like, he's kind of not rooting for Sam Darnold to come take his job, which I certainly understand. Not that he wouldn't be a good teammate or he would be like outwardly frustrated by that or anything like that. But I don't know, man, he wants to start. I get it. But let's put 25 mil in signing bonus. So that means that the void years are going to prorate 5 million at a time for 5 years. Nice, easy numbers. Okay, so we have 35 mil left to account for, and we're going to fully guarantee the whole first year. So let's just be like super normal about this. We'll do 15 mil in the first year, and we'll do 20 mil in the second year. There we go. So we'll have a cap number of 20 million and then 25 million, and then a dead cap hit of 15 million when he leaves in 2027. And then JJ McCarthy takes over. You get 1 year left of JJ McCarthy's rookie deal. And then you're going to have to decide to pay him. You're basically doing the Jordan Love contract math there, the contract timing of Jordan Love there. So that is a really quick and dirty contract. And we'll go ahead and fully guarantee all the base salary for 2025. We'll guarantee some number of it for 2026 or do some kind of like, player option thing or something like that to make Sam Darnold say yes to it. But there's like so many reasons that I don't love this. I mean, like I like Sam Darnold, and him being my quarterback for 2025 and 2026 wouldn't be the problem here. It's all tertiary stuff on the outside. And, the crux of the thing is, do I like the quarterback? The answer would be yes. Okay, we're good to go. But the idea of having JJ McCarthy, who the Vikings have been outwardly very excited about, just sitting there like collecting dust for 3 years would make me question if they were being wholly truthful, if everyone was being wholly truthful about how excited everybody was after this one preseason game. Because the Vikings were really, really excited, and they went out of their way to show it more than just saying the right things on the podium. The local beat picked up on it too. Like we were really made to believe that the Vikings really, really liked this guy. And were really excited to go to him, so much so that they're willing to let a 14-win quarterback walk out the door. But if they're not willing to do that, and so much so they're not willing to do that for a couple of years yet, then either the rehab isn't going as well as we thought, or the Vikings just don't like JJ McCarthy that much. Like that would signal that to me. And then they go, okay, well, we'll keep him in the building for a couple of years and see if he develops more over the long term. But this is now Sam Darnold's team. And honestly, from there, I could see the Vikings rediscussing all this in 2026 and getting rid of JJ. Like this just completely gives up on JJ McCarthy, or at least sets you down that path, not irrevocably, but it does start. So I don't like that. And this just isn't good for Sam Darnold. This kind of deal, and this might be the kind of offer that the Vikings have on there, is just worse. It gives 2 years of security to Sam Darnold. His cash flow sucks. He gets 40 mil in the first year, then 20 mil in the second year. This sucks. It all sucks. And in fact, to fix the cash flow, I might even take 10 mil out of the signing bonus and put it into the third year or the second year so that it goes 30-30 in terms of like actual cash flow. The cap hits adjust a little, goes to 18 and then 33 mil, and you kick less can down the road, but it could be something like that so that he's like physically making 30 million a year for the next 2 years. But then he's got to go back to the table. What if he gets hurt? What if his value isn't as high then as it will be now? He will be closer to 30. What if he has a bad year in 2026 and then he's got to go into free agency on that? Why would he ever do that when he could be going into free agency now and getting like a real commitment from somebody? So this is all in service of the prediction that I am making here, which is that all the reporters are correct in saying that the Vikings and Sam Darnold are still trying to work something out, but that the Vikings are not going to come up to where Sam Darnold wants them to come up to, and that Sam Darnold is perfectly within reason to expect that. And there's just going to be too much distance between the two sides. They're going to go, we're going to hear about it, and some other team is going to give them a deal that the Vikings were like way unwilling to even flirt with. And good for everybody involved, right? That's kind of how it's supposed to work. Okay. Tomorrow, we'll get off the Sam Darnold stuff, okay? Because we're still trying to figure out Byron Murphy. News is breaking every which way. Saquon Barkley got a whole bunch of money. More players got cut from the Seahawks and stuff. By the way, players that get cut before their contract is up, not compensatory free agents. So if you want Draymond Jones and Rayshon Jenkins, boom, not a compensatory free agent. Doesn't affect your formula at all. You get those guys and you get to keep the comp pick. So there's something to root for. But maybe we'll go over some of that and other positions, and there's also draft stuff coming up later in the week. I'll see you all for that. And as always, Skull